I want to go back to self-care because this is something that I talk about all the time, and I want to mention it here as well, that there's a difference between self-care practices and self-comfort. And I read this, I can't take credit for this, I read this in the last year, it's a midlife revelation for me. But self-comfort practices are eating, drinking, shopping, getting your nails done, getting your hair done, having a glass of wine with your girlfriends. There's nothing wrong with that. But
No.
those are short-term moments of relief.
Sure.
And they don't sustain you for the long haul. And obviously to an extreme can be an addiction or an extreme escape, and that's not helpful at all, and that has its own repercussions, right? Self-care practices are things that sustain you for the long haul, like meditation, prayer, yoga, exercise, a creative diet, yes, creative outlet, a hobby, something that you do that brings you spark, brings you joy. Friends that are life-giving, not just the silly, fluffy, crack up moments. We have to have those for sure.
Yeah.
And like, I just went to the Bean concert. You have to have those like fluffy nights, right? But friends that really speak into your life, that inspire you, encourage you, support you, challenge you, love you deeply, really life-giving. I love that description. You need those kinds of friends
I would say
in your
to
life.
add to that, what you read, what you put into your brain, what you watch on television, what you read, it's just like you're having a good meal. You know how a lot of us feed our kids exactly what we all should be eating, right? We have the protein and we have the vegetables and it's colorful, and that's what we need to not only eat, but we need to digest internally. Because what I work on with my clients is reading something that inspires you and reminds you. Hillary talked about how you kind of release whatever story whatever you're carrying with you, but you need to replace it sometimes with something. And that replacement is, it can be spiritual reading, it can be something inspiring that somebody said that you heard. I just read a fabulous graduation speech that felt like, but to remind yourself that self-comfort does not sustain you for the long run.
Right.
So
yeah, no, I think that's a really great, what you're absorbed, that is very poignant, because I think we don't even necessarily realize all the things that we are absorbing in our environment, whether that's social media, Facebook. You have the news on in the morning. What is the news? It's basically negative. Like I don't even listen to the news. I take care of my mom who's 86, which like obviously that takes my stress level up to like I bumped it up with a special needs kid and an aging parent. But so I definitely incorporate a lot of, I was checking my environment, just like what is toxic around me? Not only what am I ingesting in my food, what am I taking in internally, but what is in my outside world? I am in control of what I bring into my life and what I ingest mentally, physically, emotionally, whether they're my own toxic negative thoughts of the story of the, maybe it was like, it's never going to get any better, or I'm always going to be stressed out, or I'm always like, really pay attention to your self-talk. And one tool I will mention, and I do this with my clients and a lot of people, I wouldn't say journaling, but you can almost do, it's called a brain dump, where you can just write down, like at the end of the day, write down all the things that happen, all the stuff, all the stressful moments, and just put them down on a paper, leave it there, clear your energy for the evening. I have a ritual where I literally just say, I'm calling back all my own energy and I'm releasing any energy. We are energetic beings, so we are like literally vibrating. You have an energetic field about 3 to 5 feet that surround you. So we take on, so not only when we're with, good people and, fun with our friends and taking on wonderful things, but we also can absorb. And when we have kiddos on the, special needs, that's a lot of energy that we're taking on and absorbing. And if you don't release it, if you don't have a way to do that, a tool, a meditation practice, a spiritual, walking can be a meditation. You can go just take your shoes off and walk barefoot in the grass, get grounded, and find some way that works for you. It doesn't have, that's the key, is finding those little things, right? And then employing them. And they just have to be it could be moments. It doesn't have to be like, I don't have time because I've got all these other, moving parts in my life. We have to really break it down where it is simplistic, it brings you joy, and it will start to work, right? It's just like you didn't go, you didn't eat healthy one day and all of a sudden you're like your perfect weight, right? It's like it took a little time, but diet is so important. Yes, nutrients that you're ingesting. So be mindful of what you're taking in your environment. I'd say put on a podcast, put on some joyful music that you love that gets you, dance around the room. Be silly. Don't feel like you have to live in this, it's got to be a certain way, what you were saying, expectation. Be creative of how you can find little joyful moments in your life, in your stressful environment, because then they will start to magnify. You'll start to just build and build, and the more you'll find you have more joy than you do stress, right? So you have to add. And that's why they call meditation a practice. Because we all have to practice. It's not like we're just going to be, and I didn't meditate for years because I was the same way. I'm going to be a bad meditator. I've got too much going on in my mind. I can't quiet my mind. You're not supposed to quiet your mind. You're just supposed to note the thought, release it, and then that's it. You don't have to be, don't even be judgmental of yourself there, right?
Right.
And I'd say another one, I would just say forgive yourself is huge. Forgiveness for the maybe you didn't handle the meltdown. Believe me, I've got many of those when I didn't handle the meltdown properly. I didn't do the quote unquote, right? It could just happen the other day. Yeah. My son had I found out he ate a half a loaf of bread right before dinner, so he was crying and upset, and we just held each other until he was over it. But if I don't forgive myself for, I didn't remember to lock up the bread, or I didn't remember I got triggered by the whatever. So be patient with yourself, be loving to yourself, be kind to yourself, and find a good support system. So
yeah, I agree.
Just one more thing I wanted to share. And a good friend of mine who is an educational therapist and a psychologist said to me when Megan was diagnosed, she said that you're never going to be the mom that you thought you were going to be.
Yeah.
You're never going to follow the book. She deals with moms like us all the time, and she said it's one of the hardest things to reconcile. When I used to go to bed when Megan was young and cry because it was just a horrible parenting moment, right? And I just
we've had many of those.
And John would say, it's hard to be a special needs parent.
Absolutely.
We're not the parents that we read about in the book of that, what to expect when you're expecting. It never.
No.
So anyway, I just thought I'd add that because it gave me great solace to know that it's all of us.
Yeah.
We're not going to follow the book.
That's good. That's a good reminder.
That is a good reminder. And in a way, it's I know people I remember when Dean was younger and they would say oh, you were chosen and it was and all this stuff. And you're I'm not feeling that way. I'm not I didn't sign up for that. I wasn't that's not what I wrote down in my order. But, as time has passed, I always say, Dean will teach me more than I will ever teach him. And it is your greatest lessons. And I think that I do believe that there are, reasons for everything. And if you can get through whatever stage you're in, maybe you're in the beginning stages and you're feeling super overwhelmed, reach out. There's so many resources. You putting this together is such a huge blessing for people who I remember. You're just it's like learning a foreign language, and the manuals. There's more information than there ever was. Where you were, probably one of the pioneers. And even now, I'm wow. I wish I would have known that. What are the things I wish I would have known that? But that's what I'm saying. There's. Be patient with yourself, be understanding, recognize that your path is going to be different than maybe what you expected, but there's beautiful moments in that as well. So lots of learning.
Well, and I think, that just makes me think of gratitude, because, which doesn't happen overnight. If someone had said when Ryan was diagnosed that, oh, Jessica, you should get a gratitude journal and write, 3 things that you're grateful for every day, or 5 or 10. I don't think I would have been ready to hear that. So it does take some time before you're even willing to try that, depending on what stage, depending on what crisis you've been through lately, the age of your child, your own grieving process, which is cyclical. I always say it's not a linear process. But we've talked about morning practices. We sort of alluded to it: meditation or prayer or journaling or deep breaths, or it could be visualization, which sounds really woo-woo, but lately what I've been doing is visualizing Ryan with refreshing rain pouring over him like peace. Just that image, just your child in the rain with the rain coming down and they're just receiving it like children do. They're not flustered by it. Well, some people are. Anyway, some get
If you don't like rain.
Anyway, but just imagine that moment, and that brings me a sense of calm. But practicing gratitude really does help you see the hidden treasures in the darkness, because
Absolutely.
there are treasures, and sometimes they are hidden. You can't
Yes.
find them. It's not obvious. It's not in your everyday life, because maybe the everyday life, there's a huge demand on you emotionally, physically, mentally, but I think if we can slow ourselves down, and find those moments to really think about all the little things. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't. I'm grateful for,
Right.
I'm grateful for this smelly candle
Yeah.
because it really makes the room feel nice. It doesn't have to be,
Right.
the big stuff. It can be just all the little things that you're grateful. I'm grateful for this cup of coffee right now this morning as I'm trying to wake up. But all of that shifts your mindset.
So true.
And that's what we need to do to combat the stress. The stress will always be there. There will not be an absence for anybody in their life. But if we can employ practices that are proactive, it will help us not get on the roller coaster of our kids' tantrums or the crisis or the hospitalization or whatever acute episode is going on in your life. We will have more in our tank to draw from if we put some practices into place.